Hi, Hannes. How are you?
Hey, Yang-Hu, I'm okay. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here today.
That's great. Thanks very much for accepting the interview from my request. And I would like to introduce to our guest shortly about you. Hannes is from BIM², which is a software development uh, company located in Stuttgart, near Stuttgart in Germany, and they developing software solution for Revit to supply different technology in terms of formwork software, and they have more other plugins for Revit. And welcome for the interview today, and I would like Hannes to introduce yourself.
Thank you. As already said, it's a pleasure to be here. Originally, I started my working career as a draftsman on the Schwäbische Alb, which is a location in Germany.
Mhm.
After this apprenticeship, I moved to Stuttgart to study here civil engineering and international project management. And then I moved to the UK for my MBA and for the DBA, the Doctor of Business Administration, that I'm currently working on.
Wow.
Other than that, thank you. In parallel, I was working in different professions, including site engineering and project management. But now I finally arrived at the current position as Chief Technology Officer of BIM², like you just said, a company that is focused on the digitalization of the formwork market. In special, in more general, it's like focused on like supply chain deliveries in the construction industry.
Wow. Thanks very much for your introduction. You begin with this industry experience as a draft person, you said, as in architectural draft person or structural draftman. Which one was it?
It was actually was rather infrastructural,
Okay. Wow.
based on infrastructure. Yeah.
Okay. So you start with the hardcore one first.
Well, I'm not sure. I don't want to judge about the others, but
Uh,
yeah,
yeah.
it was interesting.
Okay. So you've been like studied different domain, and now you're doing business administration for um, um, further studies. And do you always wanted to do that since you were young?
Mm, Well, maybe not really, since I was very young, because I had probably the desires of the most young boys to become a football star. But yeah,
Wow.
uh,
Sure.
we recently have to admit that that won't work. So I need to find other ways. And yeah, then it was getting straight into the construction domain and probably stayed like
Mm,
inside this domain.
yeah. Was it difficult for you to find this different educational system between Germany and in UK in terms of, I don't know, because I guess in Germany you have different degree of higher education, right? Like Hochschule, Fachhochschule, university, and etc.
Uh, yeah, I mean the education system. Comparing the education system from the UK to
Mhm.
Germany or the Germany to the UK, it is definitely differently. I wouldn't judge about the equality, because I think they simply have a different focus. I
Mhm.
think yeah, both internationally, both systems are well recognized. But yeah, I'm a little bit more a fan of the UK system, if
Mm,
you ask me spontaneously,
okay.
because at least in the MBA context, it was more like project work, conducting papers and stuff like that.
Mhm.
And yeah, so I was enjoying it there, but maybe it's also like just a different environment. So
Mm.
I'm
It
not
also
sure.
it also
Yeah.
depends on what subject you are doing and yeah, it's really vary. But I was studying in Australia. I think they are pretty much similar to UK system, and I felt a certain degree of freedom to study in Australia than Austria, because Austria is like also certainly different system than Germany, I guess, but it's very strict. Like you have to finish this,
Yeah.
otherwise. So
I guess it's the main difference. Yeah, I guess I would totally agree with that.
yeah. What was the hardest part of your study?
Good question.
Or it was never hard? It was easy.
Yeah, it was hard. Probably it was the last
Yeah.
bachelor exam because everything was just, yeah,
Mhm.
the whole course messed the exam completely up, and we all had already our future jobs,
Mhm.
and everyone was so, oh my God, but finally they let everyone through,
Mhm.
even I think if we completely messed it up as a course. So
Mhm.
probably, yeah, that was like the most exciting point,
Mhm.
in not a positive way.
All right, so we now get to know your academic background, and it's ongoing, which is really amazing that you pushing yourself further. Tell me about your work a little bit more detail. What are you doing at BIM²?
Yeah, it's a very interesting. We are a new startup.
Mm-hmm.
What does new mean? I mean, for a startup, we are already mid-aged, 3 years old,
Mm-hmm.
and we are focused really on the formwork domain, and we try to implement plugins for Revit to automate the process of formwork engineering, or at least part automate, to generate like a human machine interaction to make the formwork design more efficient,
Mm-hmm.
and to deliver it later on the construction side in a digital transparent way.
Ah, okay. And this software BIM², for as far as on Revit plugin, do you also have other plugin for, like, say, platform such as ArchiCAD or something like that? You Tekra or something? Do you have also plugin for that, or is it more Revit related plugin?
Indeed, it is Revit related.
Okay, that's good to
So we
know.
need the software Revit to run our plugins.
Mm-hmm.
However, of course, it is not the pretty much perfect way. In an optimum case, this plugin would support multiple CAD softwares
Mm-hmm.
and just store the logging, the algorithms and the database, the information outside the core, and access or give the possibility to access different CAD systems.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, first of all, this is not so easy to do out of a software perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And so we decided to get the currently most popular software, at least from a contractor's end, onboarded. So, but it don't really need to be the end of the journey.
Yep, sure. I mean, Tekra, for example, already provide really good solution for formwork, and they have really good library, so it's quite good. But Revit is always kind of missing this part in terms of formwork detailing and model, like a 3D model formwork part is kind of really missing from Revit. So I think it's really good directions you provide such a solution. And I will put the more detailed description on our description box below, so you guys also check it out. BIM², what is going on there and how it works. But I think it's really intelligent system to work with it. And you said formwork, but there are many different manufacturer, right? Do you support all kind of formwork products, or how does it exactly work? If you can shortly describe it.
Yes, sure. So thank you for putting us down in the list.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think it's a nice extension of like the current version around architecture, structural engineering, MEP engineering. So to make it a holistic platform as Revit is. And this holistic platform approach, we want to like process also. So right now we have 2 contractor on our platform, which have all the same functionality, and yeah, can be applied on this plugin algorithms. However, also here it don't we don't want it to be the end of the journey, and we are in contact with several formwork suppliers and also scaffolding suppliers to like extend this platform and make it as holistic as possible, because we also recognize a need in the market to have a kind of holistic tool for the planning.
Ah, okay. So scaffolding system is also one of the option. And then tell me about, we kind of understand what you're doing at work, but tell us about what are you enjoying most at work?
Well, it's a good question. I probably enjoy the most that we can bring the software technology perspective and the civil engineering perspective together, which is not always easy, because of course both parties have a domain knowledge and see different potentials, but I guess this is the most interesting and most exciting part, to like have those paradigms or adopt the IT potential on the construction industry.
Yeah, so it's like bridging the gap between civil engineers or like, let's say, construction draftsmen or architects who struggle to, because formwork is really kind of final drawing after all the design is freezed, and it's like really have to, as far as I know, almost 99% of structural engineering firm, they draft formwork drawing manually in 2D. They have 3D model for sure, like Revit or IFC model, but most of the case they use just hatches and line to draft formwork drawing, as far as I know, in Central Europe. But this such a solution would be really useful, I guess. All right, so I mean, everything is BIM, so it's difficult to ask you about BIM, but how did you gain your experience in BIM in our industry? Let's say BIM, building information modeling or management. I don't know.
Yeah, well, as a part of the supply chain, our customers and also us relying on the BIM adoptions in the industry and the requirements that are made by clients or contractors to process BIM approaches. And we are just, as a small part of the supply chain, have to find ways how to deliver our information. However, usually these ways are dictated by the further client contractor, by the further tiers within the industry. But we had already some interesting approaches, even if I see that the formwork and scaffolding industry is not always in the focus of the holistic life cycle buildings or digital buildings. There were some very interesting approaches where closed BIM was applied on a pure Revit basis, and where we could deliver all planning crafts could deliver their drawings on tablets, and everything was model based. There were no 2D plans in the overall project. But also we had some very interesting approaches in the open BIM sector, so where every software technologies were completely mixed. I think this is quite more challenging because there are still some struggles with the IFC format, etc. However, it was a nice delivery as well. And I think more and more contractors are going either towards Revit or to have complete open software structures.
Yeah, right. So your knowledge and experience about BIM is just inevitably you just gain automatically from your what you're doing. And you mentioned about open BIM. I really agree. Closed BIM. Closed BIM has certainly benefit for some structured company where they use always same system, and if they have engineers and MEP engineers to work together within the group, maybe it's really good. But I guess in our industry, many experts involved, and the disciplines could be 50 different disciplines for one specific project. And nowadays, even real estatement or space designer, or let's say, I don't know, some human scientists also involved in building design process. So it's very difficult to force them to use only one particular platform to proceed all the projects. So I think OpenBIM is really important some point. And I guess you guys also working on it. So I'm really looking forward to see some more future solution, not only in Revit, but also, let's say, maybe it can be out of BIM authoring software, like maybe Rhinoceros or such a 3D CAD software can these days work with BIM parameters. So they have ability to export IFC model and etc. So I think that's another future development I could imagine, and I'm looking forward to seeing it as well. It's funny because you are yourself software developer, but may I ask you what is your favorite software, if I can ask?
Well, I guess there is not something like a really favorite software, because if we take a look at the software infrastructure of BIM, it is so massive, and for every use case there's like a certain product. Of course, we are relying to Revit a lot, because at the moment our whole business model is based on Revit, and it is a good tool indeed. However, the spectrum of different softwares and use cases is so clever, and also goes beyond the big suppliers of the Silicon Valley. So it's difficult like to choose a very different, for me personally, the best software, because yeah, there are so many different applications behind.
Okay, that's interesting. Right. And do you think this OpenBIM really work when you imagine, because there are so many softwares we are using?
Yeah.
How is the situation in Germany?
Well, it works. Very good practice examples in Germany. However, it's not very convenient. So there are always issues with parameters and also geometry. And I really hope that the IFC format will make a huge jump in future to really go to the next level, because I feel like there's a lot of continuous improvement and work by the industry, but we are missing like this very, very big step where we have convenient data sizes that contain reliable information. And so there is a lot of checking and controlling when applying IFC.
Yeah, the one
possible.
Yeah, true. One thing IFC weak part of IFC is that still the geometry conversion is not. I mean, parameter, yes, it does quite okay to transfer and put in container, but the geometry is still they are weak. Some geometry is like broken, or the native geometry and the IFC geometry is always doesn't match some point depending on the software. And especially you guys are dealing with much fine detail, right? Level of detail, like because it's like scaffolding or formwork, you may have higher level of detail for your solution. And I think Open IFC is sometimes still struggling to convert all this kind of detail. So I think you also teaching at university, right? If I'm correct.
Yeah, so I do several guest lectures, but the biggest one we did last year. So it was a 2-semester project together with Klaus Nesensen, who is a lean expert. And what we try to do is combine the digital spectrum and the lean spectrum for the structural works. And we had 3 different teams of students, and they were competitors founding a company, and their task were to acquire a project using novel technology and lean practice. Yeah, and finally, I think it was a great concept, and also I think the students enjoyed it. And I hope that in future, as we were discussing about systems before, the future of teaching will adopt a little bit more such project manners and new approaches that go beyond multiple choice tests and stuff like that. Because I think in the era of like unlimited information for everyone, I'm thinking about Google and everything, it does not make sense really to have everything in mind. It's just too complex. It's more like how to pick this information that you need out and compose it to like, yeah, your customized solution.
That's true. Yeah, it's a floating. I mean, we are in maybe one of the best age in terms of learning path and searching the material to learn something. It's we have certain freedom in our age, which is really good. But at the same time, we cannot really propose everything to students. I'm really glad that you are teaching at university, because my university time, I was finished my master degree in 2016, and I studied architecture for 12 years. Like I never could finish it, but at the end I could somehow finished it. And there was never BIM topics, you know. There was no solid BIM topic, or at least digitalization or IoT thing in architecture department. It was never really implemented. And I hear from other people that now and more BIM topics or these digitalization topics integrated not only for architecture school but also structural engineer school or other like facility management side also is getting more and more recognized, which is really good. And I think you should push the students further the boundary of this, you know, just paperwork. So that's really good. Do you also consult your external clients when you introduce your software solution, or is it only software development you guys are mainly doing? Is there any consulting service?
Well, I would say it's a concept based on software development. So of course there is like a consulting service how to adopt it, but not like in a very narrowed down BIM consulting manner. So we don't do like BIM coordination on a project basis. It is rather going to the direction of the like strategic consulting, how to adopt certain software products, what is missing, how to build interfaces between CAD and enterprise resources software, more those types of consultancy. But that comes usually with software development and sometimes also with Revit modeling, templating, or something like that.
So the software itself is pretty much self-explaining software, intuitive, so the people don't need special training to use BIM², right? It's pretty much automation of, I don't know, maybe as long as people know Revit, how to use Revit, then it's easy to use, I guess, your solution, right?
Yeah, more or less, I would say so. It really depends on the single case.
Yeah.
It's often also the case that the company is completely changing from mostly actually AutoCAD to Revit, and so those transition phase is also moderated. Yeah, so having this current scenario, maybe a small plugin on an AutoCAD basis, which is then lifted into Revit, and of course, which opens new perspective in like 3D modeling or XD modeling. And that are big changes, and there are also change programs and of course trainings provided.
Also training, yeah. I mean, at work, we are also developing a couple of softwares, but in the end, it's without consulting, it's also difficult to introduce your solution, because I found, first of all, people could be interested in, but then when they actually have to use in practice, it's not very easy to implement it immediately, right? But I think software should be really self-explaining without much explanation in the future. So, but I think our industry is very complex. It's never gonna be like that, I guess. Especially in engineering part, it's not just simple drawing. It has to be work. I'm curious, your formwork or like formwork doesn't matter, but scaffolding system. Once we use this plugin, is it already calculating the structural analysis automatically, or is it providing already secured system that the engineers doesn't need to calculate again for scaffolding?
Actually, we are not that far in scaffolding, to be honest. So there is just a small tool for benchmarking available, or where we have like, yeah, probably it's around the BIM level. It's probably not so much defined, but it must be about 200 or 300, where we just build like very, very basic areas and plan and benchmark a project towards scaffolding. For the formwork part, it's better, it's more optimized, but even here we have not the status that the engineer can like completely rely on the software. It's more like a supporting tool. Of course, it needs to be better, it needs to improve in future, but I think to reach that status for like complete automation, full automation, yeah, this will be still a long journey.
Yeah.
And so
no, I totally understand, because when I worked in structural engineering office, the structural engineers never believe 100% their software anyway, whatever calculation software, because I still think structural engineering is really, really more based on the experience from senior engineers, because we cannot, of course, we can calculate, but calculation is still simulation, let's say, and it's not 100% physically same in real world when it's a scaled project. So I think that is still we need architects and engineers to use the software, I guess. Otherwise, everyone will lose job in the future, right?
Yeah, it will be boring. It will be boring. It must be like a supporting tool in future, and I think that makes sense, just to get rid of the routine tasks and tasks where the human are not made for, that the human can focus on the complex and the creative tasks.
Right. So since you providing solution, and how do you see the future? Do you think this planning, because most of case this solution we use planning stages, right? Not in construction stages. How do you see the future of planning in buildings or infrastructure?
Well, it's definitely very, very difficult to judge, because we are living in such an interesting time in most parts of the world, including in particular Germany. The real estate market is still very, very complex. So there's a lot of work to do. The real estate prices skyrocket. Infrastructure is in Germany, at least, as well. So in Germany, there is a lot of work to do regarding the infrastructure. But how to build that in future, how to really improve the efficiency of the design, the efficiency of the site, and of course, what comes more and more in future, this economic efficiency and environmental efficiency. So both paradigms need to be satisfied, especially now as we are getting more and more requirements in the environmental sector, which is absolutely needed and mandatory. I think construction will, within the next 5 years, will be reshaped extremely. But actually, we also know that it's a very traditional industry, and we will see what is really happening in the industry, and if there really is a shift in the paradigms of construction towards digital and environment friendly, or if it's like getting pretty slow, and which maybe opens also the space for new companies, startups, to like have their location in the market, or conquer their location in the market.
I guess also in the future, in planning stage, more or less similar. We will always use, like now in present, digital solution, but more structured, and everyone is now kind of understanding and adopt this digital solution in the future. So it's maybe more efficient. But I also think, let's say 50 years later, I don't know what's going to be happen, but the material properties, I'm not sure if concrete will be I mean, concrete will be always there since like thousand years. But the material is, we getting lack of material, environmental effect you talked about. So there will be new material maybe, or maybe the formwork is no longer necessary some point in the future. I guess maybe everyone printing the
Yeah,
but of course material has to be a new material has to be appear, because just printing doesn't make sense without reinforcement. You can do modular system of blocks, but I guess it's difficult. But I see in the future it's more like in the game, like a StarCraft in long time, like 20 years ago game, where the robots really build humans building as if it's like a machine, not as a building, but somehow. I guess this would be, I'm expecting more like 50 years later or 100 years later. It's more like machine kind of production.
more
Yeah,
production methods than.
yeah,
Yeah, I guess so. I'm even not sure about the time frame. Maybe we
mm-hmm.
have to wait 50 years or 100 years. Maybe it's going faster. I mean,
Yeah,
I'm sure that there will be a disruption in the construction industry as well,
mm-hmm.
since we see it currently in the automotive industry,
Mm-hmm.
shifting paradigms. I mean, the tech industry probably does it a little bit more continuous with smaller cycles.
Mm-hmm.
However, I think really there will be a disruption in future.
Yeah,
Probably it's difficult to judge when it is, because
yeah.
it is very traditional.
It is very
We don't know about new player.
Mm-hmm.
So it could be really that we have to wait, like you said, 50
yeah,
to
yeah.
100 years.
I think the construction solution is very traditional. Because of that, the material is not never evolve. But I guess in the future, I really believe that this new construction solution, like a method, will change completely this human, built environment. So we don't really need to do any more, maybe manually cut wood or layering the bricks or poured concrete. I really see the future. I mean, 50 years later, come on, we should build buildings in outside of Earth, right? I think the European Union planning to build some buildings on the moon in 2030. I think the solution shouldn't be human built, but has to be built by machine and have to be delivered somehow and assembled there with a machine, I guess. So this is already happening, and I'm just very curious if we're going to see this kind of building in the movie, what we see in the organic buildings, going to be really appear in our lifetime in the future.
Yeah, I am also excited about it.
Yeah.
We will have a look. I think both of us are curious and looking at the developments, but yeah, currently it's not, for me, currently it's not visible, but it will be probably at some point possible.
Yeah, I think so, because this concrete construction also, the precast, especially precast concrete construction, this method developed after war, right? After war, everything need to be built quite fast, and the concrete, this modular system or domino system was introduced, and all the industry adopted last, like, say 50 years more or less, and there will be some more movement, industry movement, and I think something will change in our life. Let's see. I'm very curious. And for that, the BIM is very important, I think, because we are going to rely more on technology and solution efficiency. And for that, of course, experience is important, but our role and responsibility is going to more align with technology, I think, in the future. If you don't understand what's going on in this technological domain, then in the future, I think it's very difficult to continue your career, I think. I mean, language-wise, I was asking to my friend, should I learn German if I have next 2 years more free time, or should I learn something else, like technological, maybe programming code or something? And everyone who I asked don't learn German. I mean, of course, it's nice to learn another language for the life, but the invest more time on technology, what you do for your career. We're talking about career, not lifestyle, but that much important, this kind of things. And I really hope that one day the language also, the barrier will be dissolved, and there will be direct interpretation solution will be provided by somewhere, I think.
Yeah.
So we discussed quite many topics, and let's talk about, you say traditional, right? Tradition. Our construction is traditional. Why you think we are so slow in comparison to, let's say, automobile industry or aerospace, aerodynamics, or like why we are so slow in comparison to the other industry?
Well, of course, the stereotype is to be traditional, conservative, but I think the real reason is slightly more simple, far away from the emotional level. I just think in other industries there are massive players. Talking about the Volkswagen industry, for automotive industry, like Volkswagen, like Daimler, like Porsche, just to name the German or some of the German ones. In the construction industry, there are quite some big players, but the main part of the industry is very, very much fragmented. So there are a lot of small organizations, companies having 1 to 10 people around, and also a lot of happens around subcontracting. So the industry structures are very complex, and also the structures around projects delivery are very complex. Plus, we have a changing from project to project of the participants. And so I think that we have really a problem because the smaller entities are not able to invest tons of money and are not able to digitalize themselves. And of course, the second point is when you have these small entities in a network working together on the project delivery, there's quite the issue that after the project, this network will be destroyed and will be rebuilt somehow in the next project. So there's no cross-project learning and no continuous information and delivery flow, no continuous value stream.
That's right.
And I think that those are the issues why we have this big problem with innovation in our industry. Or maybe it's not a big problem with innovation, but with adapting innovation on the projects, because we see a lot of pilot projects, nice PowerPoint presentations and stuff like this. But in the mass of project that we're having, the adoption is very traditional, I guess.
Adoption is very traditional, yeah. Also, education is also, I mean, it's much better now, but it's also slower than industry moving. And the demands from, let's say, government, they all demand more for less hours. So it's always contributor topics for our industry. And every project is different, although more or less looks same, box shape of 90% is building or infrastructure. Bridge is always same, segmented bridge or whatever. But every environment and every earth, like they're all different conditions. So it has to be somehow have to adopt this small difference in our industry. So that's the difficulties. And yeah, for that, the adoption is also slow, right? That's the. I don't know. In my opinion, our industry is need to see or be aware of other industries or more of. So I always recommend students, for example, if I'm an architect, and if you study architecture, and don't ever think you only gonna work in architecture office, because it's not good. You'll just kill your talent or knowledge, in my opinion. So better to gain more different experience, even working in I don't know, in the kitchen now, let's say. Everything is digitalized. Everybody who work in the industry, like a fashion industry, jewelry, or kitchen, like food and beverage industry, laboratory, whoever work in industry now, they are all digitalizing, and they even understand what is BIM. That's the surprising thing. I have a friend of mine, he's a business administrator, and he traveled, he's French, but he lived in here and there, Romania, Korea, and wherever. But he knows BIM. Isn't it amazing? And they are interested in, and because everything is trying to digitalize now. So our first step to move on from traditional step to next stage, in my opinion, for the next 10 years, everybody trying to put their documented model or the whole package of data to be somehow useful while the building is operating. So this digital twins is, I think, it's one of the important role in the future. I mean, now, of course, but more same in the future. So the building owner or family house owner, they would like to see their whole facility in somehow digital format, not just paper. So they want to explore, okay, where the pipe's broken, and they wanted to um, not manually detect, but somehow through the sensor or somehow with the IoT uh, solution, they will automatically find it. Because the reason why I like this kind of digital twins is that you don't need much effort, right? Because my parents, they operating hotel, and if something broken, because it's a family hotel, and it's a nightmare to ask plumbers to analyze and paying for them, and they don't know, and it's a nightmare really. And so I think this will be more and more important things. And if you look around now, new car, electric car, they analyze like a tire pressure, or you can see from the dashboard, right? But this is really, it's really good for users who, because we don't have to manually put the gauge to see what PSI the tire has. It has to be all somehow control. And I think all the industry moving this more or less the information management level in digitalization. So it's really important. Right. I think that's pretty much all what I want to ask, but I have one last question for you.
Yeah.
I'm trying to learn also something as time goes on. I am trying to learn every day. For me, every day is new in Europe, but every day I'm trying to learn some kind of virtual reality technology or game development technology and programming and etc. What would you like to learn for yourself? I mean, we never stop learning, right? So.
No, absolutely not. I just learned something very interesting from you about your thoughts about digital twins and about like, yeah, going up to that level and considering like all the industries working with digital twins. And so if all these different industries adopt digital twin solutions, we have to learn how they are doing their digital twin solution and what technologies are they applying to moderate it. So I think that's a very, very interesting viewpoint that I just learned. What I would like to do, or what I would like to dig deeper in the future is about really this, again, environmental topic in construction.
Right, that's very
We have
important.
to, it is important, and it will be more important in future. And it's just our challenge. And of course, we as industry people won't affect it on such a big economic, macroeconomic basis, but we can impact our construction projects in a CO2 footprint positive manner and impact it. So I guess, yeah, that's something that I'm really interested in, and where I would like to improve my knowledge.
Right. This is also very, very important topic, and everyone is it's more, I think it's one of the most important topic actually, indeed, because our building once demolished, this waste is incredible, right? It's really almost impossible to recycle this building waste, but this rule has to be changed somehow. The life cycle after demolish the building. There is one building I really like by Otto Wagner in Vienna. I don't know, you know Otto Wagner, the architect? Yeah. He built a small pavilion. It's called Otto Wagner Pavilion in front of Technical University of Vienna. There's a small pavilion which is everything is assembled by prefabricated parts.
Okay.
And there was one moment where the city wants to demolish this building, but the students of Technical University of Vienna, they all lying down and they protest, please don't demolish this lovely pavilion. And so the city decided, don't demolish it. But even it was 150 years ago, the plan, but everything was possible to demount, and you can reassemble it later, right? So this thought was already being invented like 100 years ago, and it still exists there. And I think future for environmental effect, the building material and the solution should follow this kind of methodology. I think something can be recycled. All right.
Great example. Wow.
Yeah, I think, yeah, it was really, I think because most of them is just steel parts except some plasterboard. So it was possible to reassemble the pavilion, but this idea was already thought by people in the past. So I think it will come back somehow. I think that's why the laminate timber, the timber construction becomes much more interesting, right? And right. Thank you very much for the interview today. I really appreciate your thought and sharing the idea. And I think this will help a lot to our industry and students as well, as far as people who are working in practice. They will rethink their profession. I hope one more time.
Thank you. Yeah, it was a pleasure to be here discussing with you.
Yeah.
And of course, yeah, we also have to reflect ourselves from time to time and yeah, get ourselves inspired by the new thoughts that we're getting from anywhere.
Sure.
I totally agree.
And you guys also have a YouTube channel, right? If I know.
Yeah, it's like not spectacular from now on. So far, it's not spectacular so far, but yeah, we're working on it.
Yeah,
we have a YouTube channel already.
I'll just link down there in the description box so everyone get more information about the BIM².
Great.
All right, Hannes, then I wish you have a nice day, and hopefully we keep our conversation continuing in the future. Okay.
I hope so too. See you soon.
Okay, bye-bye. Have a nice day. Bye.